Welcome everyone. It's time for our Q2 presentation. For new audience, my name is Sten Kirpeck, founder and CEO of Xplora. With me today I have our CFO, Michael Clements, and we will take you through this presentation. As we always do, we'll split it into three sections. I will start with an overview, a summary of Q2. Then Michael will take you through the detailed financial section, and I will end with an outlook and a summary of the months to come. With that, let's move into the Q2 highlights. Group revenue was up 19% year on year to 111 million NOK. For the full first half year, it was up 25% to 185 million NOK. Recurring revenue from our SIM services was up 44% in Q2 to 34.9 million. First half year was up 157% to 68.5 million NOK. Our subscriber base was up 42% to 134,000 subscribers. Remember, when we acquired Xplora Mobile back last year, we acquired 80,000 subscribers, and we have increased this to actually now end of this month at current date to 140,000, 134,000 at end of Q2. So a huge increase in our subscriber base. Our gross earnings were up 51% year on year to 60 million NOK, or 55% of the revenue, or 72% up year on year from last year to 101 million NOK. EBITDA ended Q2 at positive 500,000 NOK, or a negative 2.3 million for the first half year, and a strong and healthy cash balance at 81.2 million NOK going out of our second quarter. With that, let me take you through some of our key focus area for Q2 this year. Historically, we have introduced two new watch models approximately every other year. This is the first year we are introducing 3 new watch models, and 2 of them is an OEM strategy, an OEM platform. I will take you through some of those details a little bit later in the presentation, but Q2, it was all about getting into the final stage of completing the development of the 3 smartwatches that we will launch in 2022. Also, a big part of Q2 was all about securing our 4 new service provider agreements and start to work on them for implementation and launch throughout 2022. The 4 new agreements were in US, UK, Germany and France. This again all about replicating our very successful and profitable MVNO Nordic model, which we have done over the past couple of years. You saw the results from Q2 from previous page, with the strategy to continue to replicate that into 4 new markets throughout this year. We have also continued to enhance our GoPlay services, including execution of a test pilot in the Norwegian market, where we have onboarded our first paying customer, preparing a further rollout in more markets throughout 2022. We have also continued to build our team, ending Q2 with 122 employees, adding new resources, and of course a lot of focus in the US market. A very important part of our growth strategy. While still limited revenue from US, we are getting the team set up and in place with new distribution partners such as Walmart, Target, QVC and more. All important tools in order to gradually start to build our volumes and revenue from the US market. We have also been managing challenging supply chain situation, as you probably all are aware of. We have done that very successfully, being able to roll out our product throughout the first half of the year, meeting the demand from our retailer and distribution partners, and also are ready, as mentioned, to roll out our new product throughout 2022. Although with some minor delays of the new products. Again, I will come back to some of the more detailed plans for the rollout in the outlook statement. The company has also been implementing successfully our new ERP system, which we'll then see benefits of throughout this year as well for increased efficiency. So that was some of the key highlights of the business focuses throughout the second quarter. And now Michael will take you through some of the financial details. Michael.
Thank you, Sten. So let's dive into the financials. We'll start out with revenues. In the second quarter of 2022, revenues were up by 19% from the same quarter last year at 110.7 million NOK. The first and second quarters are seasonally weaker than what we have historically experienced in the third and fourth quarters. We expect to see a similar trend in the current year. For the first half, revenues were at 185 million NOK, up 25% from the same period last year. Breaking down into segments. Device revenues were 74.6 million NOK in Q2. Germany continues to be our largest market for smartwatches, comprising around 60% of our device revenues in the second quarter. Recurring service revenues amounted to 34.9 million NOK in Q2. Norway, with the largest subscriber base, comprises the largest share of our service revenues, followed by Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. On a group level, revenues were at 110.7 million NOK, of which Germany was our largest market at 40% of revenues, followed by Norway at 34%, and Sweden at 11% of group revenues. Moving on to gross earnings and margins. In the second quarter of 2022, gross earnings were up by 51% year-over-year to 60 million NOK, from 40 million NOK in the second quarter last year. Gross margins ended at 54.3%, slightly down from in excess of 55% in the first quarter, largely on product mix. This shows our recurring revenue base. Group recurring service revenues were 34.9 million in the second quarter, up 44% from the same quarter last year, on a 42% increase in our subscriber base to 134.4 thousand subscribers and a stable ARPU from Q1. Service revenues represented 32% of our group revenues in the second quarter of 2022. The underlying drivers you see here on the left-hand side of the slide, you see the increase, quarterly increase in our subscriber base. As Sten mentioned, when we acquired Xplora Mobile in Q1 of 2021, we acquired 80,000 mobile subscribers in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. That base has now grown to a net subscriber base of 134,000 mobile subscribers at the end of Q2 and 140 mobile subscribers as of today. The subscriber base is divided into 78,000 subscribers in Norway, 34,000 subscribers in Sweden, 14 in Finland, and 7,000 in Denmark as of Q2. Looking at the target market that we work towards, kids aged 4 to 10, that implicitly translates into a penetration of Xplora mobile subscribers of 18% in Norway. In other words, close to 1 in 5 Norwegian children in the ages 4 to 10 is using an Xplora watch daily. 4% penetration in Sweden, 3% in Finland, and 2% in Denmark. We have the longest track record in the Norwegian market. And looking at how penetration rates have developed over time, we see a very similar growth in our penetration rates in Sweden, Finland, and Denmark as we experienced in Norway at an earlier stage, as we're showing here now on this next slide. We have the same go-to-market model. We have the same type of developing marketing activities, which we also now will start applying to new markets as we roll out connectivity services. Then into a slightly deeper dive into the financials for the second quarter. First of all, the P&L. Group revenues 110.7 million, up 19% from Q2 last year. Recurring service sales were 34.9 million, up 44% from the same quarter last year. Smartwatch sales were up by 9% year over year to 74.6 million. That is a sequential positive shift in the sales trend for specifically smartwatch sales, which experienced a negative growth of 22% in the first quarter of this year. So from negative growth in the first quarter to positive growth in the second quarter. Gross earnings were up by 51% year over year to 60 million. Our operating costs amounted to close to 60 million, 59.6 million, up from 38.4 million last year. That includes 15.1 million in marketing costs. Key drivers of the increase in operating costs from last year are team costs, marketing costs, and consultancy and legal professional costs. In the second quarter, we also have 2.5 million NOK in ERP implementation costs, included in the operating costs. We exit Q2 with 122 employees, up by a net of 10 from Q1. Another positive EBITDA, 0.5 million in Q2 versus positive 1.4 in Q2 last year. Depreciation and amortization amounted to 12 million NOK, of which amortization from intangibles stemming from amortization of intangibles from Xplora Mobile acquisition was 11.8 million NOK this quarter. EBIT minus 11.4 in Q2 and pre-tax earnings minus 10.8 million. Moving on to the first half. Group revenues 184.7 million, up 25% from the same period last year. Recurring service revenues were up 157% to 68.5 million NOK. Gross earnings increased by 72% year over year to 101 million NOK. Operating costs were 103.5 million NOK in the first half, of which implementation costs for ERP systems were 5 million NOK. And that also includes marketing costs of 22.3 million NOK. EBITDA in the first half, minus 2.3 million NOK, a sharp improvement from minus 9.5 million NOK in the first half last year. EBIT ended at minus 26 million NOK after amortization of intangibles of a total of 23.7 million NOK in the first half. Moving on to the balance sheets. The balance sheet total in the second quarter was 509 million, slightly down from 514 million in the previous quarter. Financial fixed assets amounted to 255 million, largely driven by intangible assets such as goodwill, customer contracts, and intangible assets, which primarily are capitalized R&D. We have 4.4 million in other long-term receivables, which largely are deposits or restricted cash for our rent. Accounts receivable were 46 million NOK, up from 29.9 million NOK in the previous quarter on a higher activity level in the quarter. Inventories exiting Q2 were 100 million NOK, up from 78 million NOK in Q1, which makes us well prepared to deliver on our anticipated growth into Q3 and the second half of 2022. We exit Q2 with a cash balance of 81.2 million NOK. We have 28.5 million NOK in interest-bearing debt, slightly down from Q1, and we had other short-term liabilities of 66.6 million NOK, which largely are prepayments on goods ordered, as well as subscriber base and factory orders. We exit Q2 with equity of 383.5 million NOK. Finally, over to the cash flow. Cash from operations in Q2 amounted to minus 37.4 million NOK. We had cash earnings of a positive 1.2 million NOK, but we have a working capital buildup of 38.5 million NOK, drawing on our cash balances this quarter. The working capital buildup is naturally to prepare for a seasonal upturn in the second half of the year, as we always do. Cash from investments this quarter was minus 14.4 million NOK, largely driven by the investments in new product development, capitalized R&D, and new ERP systems. Those three elements drive around 3/4 of the CapEx this quarter. Cash from financing is minus 0.5 million NOK on down payment of debt. Net change in cash during the quarter, minus 52.2 million NOK, for ending cash balances of 81.2 million NOK. With that, I'd like to turn the word back to Sten for a run-through of the road ahead.
Thank you, Michael. Now let's have a look into the road ahead, and let me take you through a summary of the months to come and what to expect. I would like to introduce that by summarizing some of our key strategies for growth throughout 2022. The first 3 bullet points on the screen is all about how we'll continue to grow in new and existing markets. We will have a strong focus on continuing to grow in our largest market, Germany, Norway, and Sweden. We'll do that by joint marketing campaign, adding new retailers, and utilize our position as a category leader. Then we have a large focus in order to drive existing market from a development phase into a growth phase. We'd like more markets to become more similar to the volumes we are seeing from Germany, Norway, and Sweden. A lot of that will be related to how we even better can execute a partnership with our retailers. Third, and also very much importantly, we will focus on successfully launching into some new markets. US, of course, being one of the most important new markets for 2022. And also, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, and I will take you through the highlights and the timing in a minute, we'll also focus a lot on replicating our successful MVNO SIM connectivity model from the Nordic market and replicate that into new international market. And of course, since we are introducing 3 new models this year, we'll focus a lot about driving growth from the introduction of new models, which we historically have seen has been a success, and it by default will get more volumes and more attention from retailer partner and our own online channel when introducing new watch models. Also, as mentioned, it's new OEM model, allowing us to implement a better integration with our platform, also allowing us to introduce new services to utilize our upcoming new models in the future and revenue from those services as well. Then I would like to take you through some of the highlights of our plan for second half, starting with our smartwatches. This summer, we launched and introduced our new entry-level model, the XGO 3, into the market. We successfully launched that in July, and we will emphasize the focus on that model into August and back to school. It's a new entry-level model, as mentioned, with a price point aim from €149, including our Xplora SIM card in as many possible markets. Also new from this model is that we have redesigned the packaging for 2 purposes. One, to drive packaging and freight costs down by limiting the size of this packaging. And secondly, we have also introduced a new, more environmental friendly profile to the packaging, with the packaging main carton being 100% recyclable, and 80% of the material is already recycled as well. For all our new watch model, we will utilize and use the same packaging form factor going forward. Here you can also see our new premium model, the upcoming X6, and as we mentioned initially, it's the first time where we have chosen the OEM strategy for that hardware platform, meaning that all the IP, all the way from product design to all the software and everything that comes with the product, is solely developed by Xplora in-house, and of course also with some of our partners. That means it gives us a lot more visibility for all upcoming product and feature and service roadmap on the product. We will have a much better integration with our GoPlay platform. And of course, with the particular design, we will also make the product stand out from the crowd even more. And again, just strengthening the position as a category leader. On the screen, you can now see some of the strategies related to the product design that is important. A lot of color variation will be available, in particular from an accessory perspective. So the user can change both wristband, loops, and also bezel colors. Allows us to really allow the customer to personalize the watch, but also for us to introduce a lot more accessories into the market. It's also a Qualcomm 2500 platform, so it's a super sharp and quick processor that comes with it. It's powered by Android, again making it even more, makes it a lot better for us to integrate with our platform to really utilize the services that we will be launching later this year for this product. That gives us with a very exciting product lineup for 2022 and 2023. As mentioned, normally we rotate the product every other year. So going into the second half of 2022 and all the way into 2023, we'll have these three products. Our entry-level product, the XGO 3, our premium product, X6 Play, and also we'll have a Pro variation, an even more advanced variant of the X6. With an even sharper screen, a Qualcomm 4100 processor, making it ultra sharp, quick and fast respond, which will then launch later this year. So this will be our lineup for 2022 and 2023. Now let me take you through the connectivity service plan, the roadmap we have talked a lot about in the introduction. As you can see, we have our global SIM rollout. Starting with the launch in UK already in June, with a target to introduce France, Spain, and Germany throughout this year. Early next year, we will change our US SIM connectivity strategy from currently we're in the market with a gig solution, and in Q1 early next year, we will also introduce the traditional MVNO full-blown setup that we have used in Nordic as well as France, Spain, and Germany as well in the US market in early 2023. And as you can see on the screen, currently we have SIM connectivity in the Nordic market, a market representing roughly 2.1 million kids in the age 4 to 10. Currently, we have 140,000 subscribers per August this year, representing 6% market penetration. It's a highly scalable and accretive business model. And as you can see on the screen, it's a reference point for the market size opportunity in the market that we are targeting to launch throughout 2022. Then I would like to end the timeline of new product and services with an update on Xplora GoPlay. As you can see on the screen, GoPlay has really been through a long evolution since we started the company and launched our first product back in 2017. Initially, our service, application, and platform was all about the core services with watch, location, SMS, GPS, etc. Then we entered into these the first project, innovation project with Sony Interactive, with integration with the Sony PlayStation title. First time we really utilized the activity data we got from the kids, made kids value out of their activity level. Big success with that integration from a technical perspective. It got a lot of attention, moving our development into a very unique project as well with Dora the Explorer project, our first activity-based campaign to a broader market. Again, getting a good result from the activity and engagement from our user. Entering into our first third-party integration with 360, one of our production partners in Asia, onboarding more than 60,000 users to our activity platform. allowing us to really learn to onboard customer and learn what is creating the engagement from the users on an activity platform for kids, allowing us then to continue to add new partnerships with activity campaigns throughout 2021, having a dozen of different activity campaigns, now having roughly 120,000 plus users on our GoPlay platform. Then we have been working quite a lot on how to commercialize that model into a proposition we can launch into the market to onboard customer for a premium model, paying a premium to access that service. As mentioned initially, we did that the first time this summer with a commercial pilot in the Norwegian market, onboarding our first paying subscriber to our premium plan on the platform. And now the team is preparing the generation 2 of the GoPlay platform, taking all the learnings all the way back from 2017, accumulating in this pilot in Norway this summer, and preparing the launch to be aligned with the rollout our SIM connectivity, plus aligning with the rollout our new X6 product later this year, where we will also then introduce generation 2 of our premium subscription into the market. That takes us to the outlook and the road ahead in that regard. And again, the company has 5 strategies to grow the business in 2022. 2 strategies for our existing market, our biggest market, and then getting the other market into the same growth phase, and then introducing our product into new market. Second, a lot of focus replicating our MVNO model into new market, and of course the focus that comes along, an opportunity with introducing 3 new products and new services throughout the second half of this year. The company also continued to target our 50% revenue growth this year, although we do recognize that there are many external factors that we need to take into consideration. As the market is currently, with all the feedback we are getting from our partner, distribution partners, etc., we are continued to have our target at 50% plus. But of course, we need to also take into consideration the potential risk factors in the market and the weaker consumer sentiment that create greater uncertainty for this target. Also, Xplora is securely funded to deliver our growth plan, both into new markets, the extension of new MVNO agreement, as well as introduction of our new products. So the company is very securely funded in order to deliver all these new products and services this year. So with that, I think we can move into the Q&A section.